Hi, I'm Venus O'Hara and welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be talking about books and more specifically the books I've been reading during lockdown. So I'm going to share with you what I've been reading, what I'm reading now and what I plan to read very soon. I've been sharing lots of content about the books I'm reading on Instagram and many of you have asked me, sorry about that, just to share some more book tips and especially my takeaways. Anyway, so the first book I started reading on lockdown was The Law of Success by Napoleon Hill. This is a big book and I discovered Napoleon Hill last year actually when I read Think and Grow Rich, and I was just blown away. I thought it was absolutely fantastic and it really it's really opened my mind and opened my, it's just kind of life-changing actually. And I hadn't read for many years, and this has really, it made me think of how many other books I could read that could be life-changing. And also Napoleon Hill, I've read another book called, what's it called? How to Raise Your Own Salary, another book by him. And I find that when I read Napoleon Hill, I kind of get into a very positive mindset. And it helps me to think big. And that was perfect at the beginning of lockdown because I just felt so kind of at the beginning of lockdown. So I live in a shoebox apartment, so the thought of just having to be inside for all day long, and then all the paranoia of going outside and maybe getting an infection and seeing people with masks on and empty streets, it was so surreal. So this was a perfect distraction because work has been going quite well actually despite all this lockdown, so this helped me kind of knuckle down into work things and thinking big, etc., beyond lockdown. And but I have to say that I did find that I wasn't reading as many pages as I normally would in a session because I think my concentration was really affected at the beginning of lockdown because I felt like I was a prisoner almost on house arrest, and then sometimes some neighbours in front of me or next to me would start playing this awful reggaeton music, boom, 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 and it was like, it was very, very, very annoying. So I found myself getting wound up by little things, well, not little things, things like that, things that were completely out of my control. I just couldn't concentrate. So then I started wearing headphones a lot around the house, Bluetooth headphones with just very calming binaural beats on so I could actually read and not be distracted by any other noise, and that was a great tip. Yeah, so this book was great. It's a big book and lots of interesting tips as always. With Napoleon Hill, but I did find some of it was quite repetitive, but I don't know. I would definitely read this again though, I think with more, let's say, positive circumstances, but it was definitely great. I recommend it, and I love how it looks like a Bible because it's definitely a Bible of success. Okay, heavy book. And then after that I read How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. And this book is very interesting. It's from, I can't remember which year it's from, but it's one of the first self-help books. And it's very interesting because a lot of the books were first published in 1953. So this book is, I've been reading lots of books about personal success, personal finances, spirituality, but this book really focuses on how to treat other people. I think it's really important, especially if you're focusing on abundance and increasing your own net worth and success, etc. It's really important not to get big-headed or lose your or just become less human like some people can become. I think it's important to treat others well, and this book really teaches you about listening to other people, asking questions, and just having social success. And I think that's really important because sometimes I find that as I spend a lot of time alone, I find that over the years I'm becoming maybe more and more socially awkward, and that's something I'm trying to overcome. But a lot of the things in this book I already do. I'm already quite smiley and cheerful with people. And for example, if I'm pissed off, or I don't really like swearing on my channel, but if I'm annoyed for whatever reason in my life, I don't tend to take it out on other people who are not part of why I'm annoyed. So and I do tend to be quite uplifting and positive anyway. So this is a really good book just to kind of keep things in check. Very good book. And also it's interesting, I was reading this book, I came across a video on YouTube calling out the self-help industry, and they were talking about how this was the book, the gateway into the self-help topic or community. And I do think that you have to have a kind of discerning mindset when you're reading all this self-help stuff. It's very motivating, but there comes a time when a lot of people who are who claim to be self-help gurus, or contemporary ones at least, they start selling you things that you might not know, you might not really need, you might not. So I think you have to kind of take everything with a pinch of salt, and also not all the advice is going to work for you. I think that's really important as well, because I've read some things over the last few weeks and I've just thought, ooh, that's not, doesn't make sense to me. So you have to kind of have your own rules, really. Okay, so next book I read was Healing Love Through the Tao, Cultivating Female Sexual Energy by Mantak, Chia. I was very excited to read this book after the two previous books, because it was it's about sacred sexuality, and I learned something called ovarian breathing and the the orgasmic upward draw. So it's very interesting to use sexual energy as healing energy, and I find this very, very interesting. There are lots of explanations that go on for pages, and that can be quite tedious to read. However, I have found on YouTube there are some videos that talk about the same subjects, and it's been a kind of good thing to do, to kind of read the text, the theory, and then to kind of do some ovarian breathing practices with videos online, etc. So it's very, very interesting I'm very interested in sexual energy anyway, just in the kind of non-orgasmic sense, how it can be transmuted into the other types of energy. And something I started doing when I was reading this book was actually sometimes I engaged in self-love sessions, and instead of actually reaching orgasm, I was really focusing my energy and doing the orgasmic upward draw, and then stopping right before orgasm, and then just doing some pelvic floor exercises, and then some concentration, trying to kind of direct my energy with my mind. And then I started cooking or doing something productive, and I found that it was quite incredible, actually. I found that I had a lot of energy, and that was during a time when I wasn't sleeping so well a couple of weeks ago. But I found that it was very strange for me that I only had 3-4 hours sleep a night, but I felt full of energy as well. It was very, very cool. So that's something I'm going to be practicing more in the future, is actually engaging in sexual stimulation, but without actually going for orgasm. Very interesting stuff. And then the next book I read was You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay. And I've seen many interviews with Louise Hay online, and I find that her own life story is so inspiring. And I made a video at Christmas called Healing Orgasms, and in it I talked about my bladder issues and how it's something I've been suffering with all my life. Whenever I'm stressed, my bladder seems to be the first physical outlet of any kind of physical upset, so to speak. So someone told me about the emotional causes of bladder problems, or etc., and then they recommended this book, and I thought, that's interesting. So I got this book, and I finished it last Saturday, and I was kind of in tears when I finished it. I just thought it was absolutely fantastic, and that Louise Hay was such an amazing woman. And also there's lots of interviews of her online, so I can keep learning more from her. And it's like I would say this is like a reference book. It has a very interesting list at the end, which details some physical conditions, and then the emotional source, the probable cause, emotional cause, and then a new thought pattern in the form of affirmations. So lots and lots of affirmations, and I personally do affirmations every day. And she talks about actually doing the affirmations in a mirror, which is quite interesting. I've never done that before. But in this book she talks about relationships, prosperity, work, daily routines, etc. So the emphasis is really on self-love and self-love and affirmations. And I think this is a book that I will refer to a lot in the future. Whenever I have any physical ailments, I'm going to have a look and see what the probable source could be. Okay, and then the other day I just finished reading Meditations of Marcus Aurelius, and this was recommended to me by another follower, because at the beginning of lockdown I made a video about books and I asked for some suggestions and some recommendations, and more than one person told me about this book. It's a thin book, but it's very, very, very dense, and it's full of Stoic philosophy, and there are 12 books inside it, and it's kind of timeless wisdom, really. And I found myself nodding. I was like, I do that already. And I would definitely read this again, because it's quite dense, and I would read one book a day. Some days I read 2 a day, but I think it's worth re-examining in not lockdown situations. And as it's quite light, it might be something I would bring with me on holiday sometime, or for some trip. Yeah, and currently I am reading The Alchemy of Sexual Energy, Connecting to the Universe from Within by Mantak, Chia. And this is fantastic. It's the same author as The Healing Love. So I'm getting really into sexual energy, obviously. In this book, it doesn't seem sexual at all when you go through it. There's lots of diagrams of the galaxies, the universe, and biology, just human anatomy. And it's very interesting. It's like how we are all one, all connected. It's really interesting. And when lockdown is eased a bit more, I'm definitely going to be doing some Qi Kung classes or workshops. I'm very inspired. And also from this book, I learned something called what's it called? 6 healing sounds. And I read the explanation. This has a lot of kind of explanations as well, and instructions with exercises, breathing exercises and meditation exercises. And I was able to find lots of videos on YouTube about the 6 healing sounds. I did a meditation yesterday. It was very cool. So, and also it talks about blessing your water. So that's quite interesting. I've started doing that as well. And yeah, so it's interesting about how using the breath, using your thoughts, good energy, and your sexual energy, how you can connect with the universe and heal and do wonderful things. So I'm about halfway through this at the moment. I think I'm going to finish it in the next couple of days. But it's definitely a reference book, something I'll refer back to in the future. Yeah. Okay, so that's what I have already read or reading. And now on this side, I have what's coming next. Because I bought lots of books for myself just a couple of weeks ago for my birthday. Whenever I hear about a book, I kind of add it to my shopping bag in Amazon, and then I press the button just before my birthday. So I've no idea what's coming next, but sometimes when I've read a book in a certain topic, I go for something very different. And this is something I'm interested in reading. This is The Intelligent Investor. And this is someone a lot of people actually I trust and admire, and who are financially successful have recommended this book to me. And it's an old book. I don't know the year of the first, I don't know when it was first published, but it seems to be timeless wisdom. It has very, very good reviews. It's a big one. So I'm very interested in the world of investing. So it's about 600 pages, but it's quite light. So we'll see how I get on with that. And hopefully it's a good investment. And then another recommendation from a follower of mine was Mastering Your Mean Girl from Melissa Ambrosini. I'm very interested in this one as well. It seems like self-help, but very contemporary. And yeah, so that's going to be one for me to read very soon. And then another book I'm interested in reading is Becoming Supernatural by Dr. Joe Dispenza. I've seen many interviews with Joe Dispenza online, and I find him fascinating, and I've heard amazing things about his meditations. I just find the idea of being able to heal with your mind is just very fascinating for me, and I'm hoping I can use all this knowledge one day to actually learn how to sleep properly, how to let go, and how to overcome my bladder issues. So I'm kind of taking a holistic approach from many approaches actually to try and do my own healing. So yeah, that's very interesting. I'm very interested in this one. And another one, this is a heavy book. This is The Art of Public Speaking by Dale Carnegie, the same author as the, How to Win Friends and Influence People. The Art of Public Speaking. Well, I'm doing Toastmasters at the moment, and I've been doing it for almost a year and a half, and I'm very interested or keen to become a keynote speaker and also overcome my own fears and share my orgasmic message on stages. And I think this is going to be a good book for me. It's got lots of information about different techniques and exercises for public speaking success. And then the Multiorgasmic Woman, written by Mantak, Chia and Rachel Carlton Abrams, MD. So this seems like a more Western approach. I just opened the book, it went sexual energies. Obviously, that's a sign. Awaken your sexual energy. How cool is that? It seems like less woo-woo than the other Taoist books that I have. So yeah, this seems very cool. Exciting. This looks really cool actually. I haven't actually flicked through this before, but now that I am, it seems very interesting. There are a few diagrams I probably can't show, but wow. Exciting. And then, last two books. Tantra Illuminated. I've heard many great things about this book because when people hear the word Tantra, they think of sex, whereas Tantra is not just about sex, it's a way of life. So I'm interested in finding out more about this way of life and seeing how I can apply it to my own life. And last but not least, Yoni Shakti, which is Tantra more focused on the yoni, the sacred space, the vagina, the vulva, female genitalia, and it has, I think, yoni yoga, womb yoga, and meditation in this book. It's a very big book, and I got this a couple of months ago, and as it's so big, I found it a little bit daunting. But I'm sure that once I open its pages, I will be sucked in. So there's lots of interesting information here. So yeah, lots of wisdom here. So I'm really excited about reading everything else, and sometimes I don't really know the order when I'm reading something. So I still might buy some more books and then slip them in, so to speak. So if you have any recommendations of books that you think are life-changing, I would be very interested in hearing about them. So what have you been reading in lockdown? If you have any tips that you'd like to share, then please don't hesitate to leave a comment in the comment section below. And if you'd like me to make any other videos about orgasms, sex toys, orgasmic living, or anything related to that, then please don't hesitate to contact me at venusohara.org, or you can add me on Instagram at venusohara. Thanks for watching.